The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Today on Aging Horizons, we are going to talk about a topic that is so important to be saving lives in Montana, and that is distracted driving. What does it look like? How you might be doing it in your life, and then some tips that you can use to make sure that you are more prepared to drive in a safe and secure manner. So make sure you stay tuned to Aging Horizons. We're going to be talking with Mike Anderson, and you are not going to want to miss it.
Can you say ombudsman?
Ombudsman. Ombudsman?
Uma Doodlesman? Fortunately, you don't have to say it right to get the help of a long-term care ombudsman. If you or a loved one reside in assisted living or long-term care, an ombudsman can help resolve any issue. And these services are completely free and confidential. Now, why don't you try that again?
Ombudsman.
Did you just text me?
I didn't want to disturb you if you were sleeping.
Sleeping? I'm sitting right next to you, silly.
There you are. Hey, I found a couple of Medicare helping programs online that I think we ought to look into.
It says if we qualify, we can get help paying for our prescription drugs. Oh, and there's a program that can help pay our Part B premium.
To learn more about extra help and Medicare savings programs, call your local SHIP counselor today.
Maybe I better text him.
Here in Montana, we love our outdoor activities. Unfortunately, few of them are risk-free. Indeed, Montana is second in the nation per capita in head injuries that can destroy the lives of people we love. That's why you should insist your family always wear protective helmets. But you can do even more. When you fill out your vehicle registration this year, circle the Y and donate $1 to support traumatic brain injury prevention and education. Now that's using the old noggin.
You've probably seen some big-name celebrities on your TV lately talking about all the Medicare benefits you're missing out on. But the insurance companies who are paying for these ads may be pushing benefits not available in Montana. Fortunately, help is available from a friendly state health insurance assistance program counselor who can help you sort it all out. It's free, and we screen everyone for eligibility regardless of your zip code. It's Montanans helping Montanans. Call today.
Welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Katie Lovell, and today we're speaking with Mike Anderson. He's with the Department of Administration, and he's a loss prevention specialist, and he's going to tell us all about distracted driving. Mike, thank you so much for being with us today.
Good morning, Katie, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I think when we think of distracted driving, we think of it, it's kind of harmless. I'm changing the radio station, or maybe I got a phone call. But distracted driving is a huge problem in the United States and in Montana. Can you tell me a little bit about the seriousness of this problem?
Absolutely. In the past several years, the number of deaths on our highway systems, not only here in Montana, but nationwide, even worldwide actually, has gone up. The number of crashes has gone through the roof.
Sure.
The number of deaths on our highways is also increasing. And so most of that is due to distracted driving. One of the biggest issues with distracted driving is a cell phone.
Sure, absolutely.
And so there are three different ways that people get distracted. One is manual, is anytime you take your hands off the wheel. There is visual, anytime you take your eyes off the road. And then there's cognitive, anytime you're thinking about something other than driving.
Sure.
And cell phones are the worst because they distract you in all three ways.
Absolutely. You're going to be doing all of those for the cell phone.
All three ways. Many states have laws that you can't drive and be on the phone. In Montana, the state isn't like that, but every major city in Montana has a law that you can't be on the phone. They're just great laws. And another thing we should probably talk about with distracted driving is distracted walking.
Sure.
The number of pedestrians nationwide is going through the roof that have died in crosswalks.
Absolutely.
Because people are looking at their phones and they just assume that the drivers will stop for them because they're in a crosswalk. Well, that's not a good thing to assume.
Yeah.
Right? If you're a pedestrian, put your phone down.
Yeah.
Make sure you understand what's going on around you and make eye contact with those drivers.
Yeah.
And make sure they're going to stop before you get out in front of them.
It's important to be able to hear the drivers around you too.
Absolutely. You see a lot of younger people with earbuds in, and they're listening to music or they're listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
And some are actually doing homework.
Sure.
But the problem is they can't hear things around them.
Absolutely.
A siren or a horn, something like that. And they just get hit, and a lot of times they get killed.
Sure. I know you had some Montana-specific statistics that you wanted to talk about.
I did, yeah. So far here in Montana, we've had 161 deaths, which compared to last year, we had 178.
Yeah,
so actually we're
down
doing
a little.
better.
Yeah.
Some of the anomalies that strike me as odd is of the 161, 89 were impaired.
Yeah. Oh my
and
gosh.
so that seems to be a
huge problem in
a
Montana.
huge problem for Montanans. Seatbelt, 64 out of the 161 didn't have a seatbelt on. I don't know who doesn't drive with seatbelts.
I know, we all know how important that is.
And I will tell you, the National Highway Safety Council estimates, after 50 years of study, they estimate that those people that died in car accidents without a belt on, had they had their belt on, 76% of them probably would have lived.
Oh my gosh.
So think about that. 64 people, 76% of that is
Would still be
40
walking
people.
around. Yeah, absolutely. Oh.
Yeah. So 25 motorcycles, motorcyclists have been killed. That also is a number that's going way up.
Sure.
16 pedestrians here in Montana.
Oh, that's almost 10%.
10%.
Oh my gosh.
One person on a bicycle and 5 on ATVs. So there's a real problem out there with people being distracted and driving. And I want to make this point very clear. Driving distracted is a choice.
Absolutely.
It is. And people don't necessarily think about that.
Yeah.
But it is. You can choose to drive distracted, or you can choose to drive not distracted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Mike, I know that there are things that you can do to sort of set yourself off on a good path. I know I get in the car, I have 3 kids, so wherever we're going, we're already late by the time we get to the car. And I usually, once everybody's buckled, I'm on the road. But then, can I have a glass of water? Can you change the radio station? Can I plug in my iPad? Where's my backpack? Some of those things, really need to be taken care of before we ever put the car in gear. What are some ways that we can prepare to drive to help decrease distractions?
Give yourself more time.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest thing. And I know with 3 young children, I know that's difficult because it's hard to even get them out of bed, right?
Sure, yeah.
But you have to give yourself more time.
Yeah.
And you have to do more things before you get going. Adjust your mirrors, adjust your seat, put your seatbelt on, adjust the radio, do all of those things before you get moving.
Right, and then you don't have to touch the radio again. Then you don't have to make sure your seatbelt's, not hitting you weird, just because you've already done it.
Right.
So important. I know one of the things that has really helped me is to put my phone in my bag and then put my bag where I can't even reach it, because then it's just sort of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. What I do is I'll put my phone on, I'll turn the ringer off.
Sure.
I don't want to shut the phone off.
Yeah.
And the reason is because if I were to be in an accident, I want to be able to call 911, but if I have my phone shut off, then it has to reboot. It takes some time to get back up and running. And so what I'll do is I'll put it either in a bag or something in the back, or I'll put it in the center console.
Yeah.
And that way, hopefully, depending on the severity of the wreck, it's still in the center console when things quit moving.
Absolutely.
And I can grab it and dial and,
Yeah.
So.
All right. Mike, when we get back, I want to talk a little bit about some of the most common types of distractions. So make sure you stay tuned, because we'll be right back.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. at least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
You mean I can get help paying my prescription drug premiums?
Let me get this straight. I could be eligible for help with my family's prescription premiums even though I own my own home?
And our assets won't be counted.
If you're a Montana resident enrolled in the Medicare prescription drug program, you could be eligible for help paying your premiums. Call or visit the Big Sky RX website today to find out, even if you think you're over income.
What do you know about that? I'm eligible.
When I found out it was diabetes, my first thought was, Barb, you need help. You have to take control of this. There is help. My doctor gave me a phone number. I called and signed up with a diabetes educator. There is help. I have to put blinders on when I walk past the bakery counter. I can feel my blood sugar go up. You succeed a little at a time. If you have diabetes, help is available. You do not have to do it alone.
Ask your doctor about diabetes education or visit montana211.org.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. Today we are talking about distracted driving with Mike Anderson. Mike, thank you so much for being with us. We talked about the 3 types of distraction. So you have manual, visual, and cognitive, correct?
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit about some examples? So what are manual distractions?
Manual distractions are anything that take your hands away from the steering wheel.
Okay.
That would be reaching for an object. That would be adjusting the radio even.
Sure.
There are all kinds of different things. Eating, combing your hair.
Mm-hmm.
You see people putting on makeup.
Yeah.
You see guys shaving or, going down the road. Those are all manual distractions.
Things.
And, you need to have both hands on the wheel.
Sure.
And be thinking about driving, not thinking about getting your makeup on or shaving your beard.
Sure.
You
Are there ways that we can really limit the way that we let manual distractions impact us? Putting things exactly where we know where they are, making sure that we've adjusted that radio. Any other tips that you might have?
Yes, and you know as well as I do that Montana's huge.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can drive for 10 hours and be halfway across the state.
Yep.
And so we used to drive a lot teaching these classes. And I will tell you, I planned out my trips. I don't like to drive more than an hour and 15 minutes.
Sure.
And then I'll stop, I'll get out, I'll stretch, I'll walk. But sometimes I'll get a drink or a snack. But when I get back in the car, I open that sports drink.
Sure.
And put it in the drink holder. Or I open that bag of chips and put it right next to me so that I know where it is.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm drinking or eating a chip, is that still a distraction?
Sure.
Absolutely. But I've minimized as much as I can, because how do you go down the highway and open a bag of chips?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so difficult.
Do you steer with your knee?
Yeah.
I mean, I did have one gentleman tell me, he said, Mike, it's easy. He said, you take the bag of chips and you pop it on your hat.
I mean, if it works, it works, I guess.
Right?
Yeah, there's no way that we'll keep our hands on the wheel, 100% of the time, but you can definitely decrease those movements and what you need to do.
You can minimize it.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so the next one is visual. So that's anytime you take your eyes off the road?
Anytime you take your eyes off the road. We live in the most beautiful state in the Union.
Yeah.
Right? In my opinion. So, people want to see the scenery.
Sure.
People want to see the wildlife. Now, for those of us that live here,
yeah,
it's not that big a deal. I mean, we see moose all the time. We see elk. We see deer.
Yeah.
But and I don't want to pick on tourists, but tourists, when they come to Montana, it's a big deal if they see a bear or an elk or a moose.
Sure.
And so, they're like this driving down the road.
Absolutely.
And it can be very dangerous.
Sure.
But scenery's the same way. You get up into Glacier National Park or Yellowstone. I mean, people are just, nobody's looking at the road. They're all doing this.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you need to keep your eyes on the road.
Absolutely. And then the last type of distraction is cognitive. So what does that mean?
Cognitive is any time you're not thinking about driving.
Sure.
And it happens to all of us. We all have a tendency to, like, say you got 2 or 3 projects at work.
Yeah.
And you're on your way home, the kids need to get to soccer, you're wondering about what you're going to cook for dinner.
Yeah.
The other kid needs to get to basketball. You're wondering all these things. Well,
Sure.
The act of driving actually goes to the bottom of that list.
Yeah.
And so you're thinking about all these other things. And, sometimes, have you ever driven 5 miles and then thought about it and don't remember
I have
it?
no idea how I got there. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why.
Yeah.
It's because your mind is going through all these other things,
Yeah.
and driving just kind of becomes automatic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the problem with that is 9 out of 10 times we make it and
Sure.
everything's fine. But what happens if somebody pulls in front of you?
Yeah.
What happens if a kid runs out into the street?
Absolutely.
That's when it becomes a problem.
Sure. I think one of the things that goes along with that cognitive distraction, I know for me especially sometimes, is driving when you're sleepy or driving when you're a little bit drowsy. What are some of the ways that we can work to avoid that?
Well, if you know that you're going to travel tomorrow,
Yeah.
get a good night's sleep.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just really that simple.
Yeah.
But it all comes back around to planning, right? And driving is a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And so you need to plan it out. You don't just haphazardly jump in the car and go. I mean, there's more to it than that, to
Right.
be safe.
Yeah.
And so when you plan things out, you get a good night's sleep. That doesn't always mean that you're going to be refreshed and,
Sure.
I mean, we've all had bad nights of sleep.
Yeah.
But if you wake up in the morning, or say something happens and you spend half the night in the emergency room because one of your kids was sick or something,
Yeah.
maybe you don't drive to Billings that day.
Right.
Or you have somebody else drive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all been there when those moments where you're just too tired and that head starts to bob. It's time to pull over at that point.
Yeah.
No more driving for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And plan your trip out.
Yeah.
Go no more than about an hour, and get out, stretch, drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
Walk around, wake yourself up. Do
Absolutely.
some calisthenics even, jumping jacks.
Yeah.
Stretches. Just to wake yourself up. To
Yeah.
get, if in a severe case, and I've actually done this, where you pull over to a rest stop, take a 20-minute power nap.
Sure.
That will make a huge difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
All right, when we get back, I want to talk a little bit about some of the ways that you can help protect yourself from other people who are distracted driving. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the tools that you can use to make sure that you are safe on the road, even if others are driving distracted. So make sure you stay tuned.
Respite care is amazing. If you are capable of doing it, the rewards are beyond measure.
Stephanie Young, respite care provider, on the unexpected benefits of helping people in need.
Being a respite care provider is an amazing experience. It's something that what you give, you get back 100-fold. You receive so much more than you could ever imagine.
To find out how to change lives, including your own, go to respite.mt.gov.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare summary notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
Welcome back to Aging Horizons. Today we've been speaking all about distracted driving. We've learned a little bit about the statistics in Montana about how many lives distracted driving really does claim. And we've talked a little bit about the types of distractions that you're facing while you drive. And now we're going to talk a little bit about what to do to keep yourself safe from other distracted drivers. Mike, thank you so much again for being here. One of the things, we can do everything right, and then you can still get into an accident because of distracted driving. What are some of the ways that we can protect ourselves?
Well, first of all, the only thing we have control over is ourselves and our car. Okay, so prepare your car, prepare yourself. You can't do anything about all those other drivers. And I'll tell you, there are some bad drivers out there. There just are. And so we have another class that's called defensive driving. And what that gets into is how to protect yourself with other bad drivers out on the road. Number one killer in the United States is too much speed. Right? So keep your speed down and watch for others that are going too fast. Following distance is huge. You need at least 3 seconds between you and the car in front of you. The reason for that is there's perception time, there's reaction time, and there's braking distance. And tailgating is the number 4 killer in our country. And people don't understand why tailgating is so dangerous. But the thing is, if you're going down the road and you're within that 3 seconds, and let's say a deer comes up in the car, in front of the car in front of you, they hit the brakes, you're not going to be able to stop before you hit them. And that's what people don't understand. Tailgaters assume 2 things. They assume that the car in front of them will never stop, which is silly. And they also assume if it does stop, I can stop just as quickly. Both of those are false. And so you have to have a minimum of 3 seconds. And it's easy to decide whether you have that 3 seconds. Find a stationary object, a tree, a light pole, whatever it is. When the car in front of you goes past it, start counting to yourself, 1001, 1002, 1003. If you get to that same stationary object before you say 3, you're too close.
And you need to back off a little.
Just back off. Just slow down a little bit, put some more space in between you and that car in front of you.
And 3 seconds is the minimum. I mean, I assume that 3 seconds assumes good roads.
Yes, absolutely. That's in perfect condition. We also have what we call the 3 second plus rule. And that is any hazard that you identify, add another second. If the roads are wet, add a second. If it's dark out, add a second. If the kids are in the back seat yelling and screaming and throwing things at each other and driving you crazy, add 2 or 3 seconds.
Absolutely. 1 second for each kid.
It's all about safety. And it's not going to make you get there any slower. I mean,
because at least you're going to get there.
At least you're going to get there.
Absolutely. And I think you see so many people tailgating nowadays, it's almost become sort of the norm, and it's just so dangerous, especially in the winter. Because you, as we said in our winter driving, you can go up to 10 times the stopping distance on ice as a dry road. So if you're being tailgated, this is the opposite. If somebody is tailgating you, what you want to do is maintain your speed, do not slow down,
You can pull a little bit over to the right to allow them to pass. If they don't, what I like to do is just take a turn off the road. And sometimes there are people out there that are aggressive drivers. What if they follow you?
Yeah.
Don't panic. Maybe you turned on their street.
Sure.
Right? Turn again. If they follow you the second time, could be that they're wanting to have a altercation with you for some reason.
Yeah.
Maybe you drive a car that looks just like one that cut them off in traffic. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, and so the thing is, do not stop and have that conversation or that altercation out in the middle of nowhere. Get to a big box store. Get to a fire station. Go to the police department.
Somewhere well lit and in public.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Somewhere
so
where there's
important.
cameras, you know, or people.
One of the tips that I learned in your class that has really helped me is increasing my range of visibility by adjusting my mirrors. Can you talk about that trick?
Absolutely. Most people do not adjust their mirrors correctly. Now, when I was taught, when I was young, I adjusted the mirrors. Half of it showed my vehicle, and the other half showed beyond my vehicle. Well, I didn't realize it until I was probably 40 years old, that there's a better way to adjust your mirrors.
Sure.
The way to do it is you lean over until you're just about to the window, and then adjust that mirror out until you don't see your car.
Okay.
Okay? On the passenger side, lean over in your seat, it's, you know, as far as you can, and move it out until you can't see your car. What that does is it allows you to see into those blind spots on either side of your vehicle. Now, I will say this. It's a little bit disorientating.
Yeah, you do have to get used to it.
When you first do it, it kind of freaks you out, right? And so give it a week.
Yeah.
Give it a week to get used to it. Once you're used to it, you will really like it.
I have really noticed that you can see into your blind spots so much more, especially on the interstate. It is so helpful to be able to see that car coming just so much farther back than you would have before. So, so helpful.
Yeah.
One of the things I think I'd really like to end on is talking about how the choice, being distracted is not a natural consequence of driving. I mean, we all have distractions in our life, but distracted driving is a choice. So let's talk about that.
It truly is a choice, whether it's manual, visual, or cognitive. It's a choice whether you allow yourself to drive distracted, or if you think about it and don't allow yourself to drive distracted.
Absolutely.
There are many things that you can do in the parking lot before you get going, you know, that adjusting your mirror, your seat, your temperature control, your radio, all of that stuff can be done while you're not moving.
Absolutely.
Right? And so, and like eating or having a cup of coffee, minimizing that distraction. You know, it's still a distraction, but you're minimizing it. So it truly is a choice. And many people think, oh, I can't not be distracted. I've got 3 kids in the back seat. Well, that's not an excuse.
That's right.
You know.
Well, thank you so much for staying tuned with us. Make sure you make the choice to not be a distracted driver. Thank you.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.